past, present and emerging. I also like to acknowledge in the crowd a couple of suspended councillors and of course our Freeman of the on the podium, Arnold Carter, and welcome members of the public. There's a few things that we just need to go through before we get to question time. The attendance by phone there is nil, apologies nil, leave nil, disclosures nil, application for leave is nil. Item 5, there is 2 questions on notice that were taken and the replies are listed there. I move now to public time. This meeting is being streamed live online. If you do not give permission for recording your participation, please indicate this at the meeting. In accordance with the town's standing orders, nobody shall record the proceeding of any meeting unless that person has been given permission by the chairperson to do so, and mobile phones must be switched off. Unless the presiding member determines otherwise, a person may ask up to 3 questions at a meeting. The time allocated for asking and responding to questions raised by members of the public is up to 15 minutes, but the presiding member may extend question time. Members of the public are required to complete the question form and place in a completed form in the tray provided. If the presiding member determines that any question or statements are out of order due to the use of offensive or objectionable expressions or are defamatory, they will not be recorded or responded to. That's the procedural stuff out of the way. Do we have any questions from the members of the public? Now, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Arnold Carter, 47 Moore Street. I have 3 questions, Mr. Chairman. The first one is with reference to the closing of the Port Hedland Library, which has recently been done, I believe last Thursday. What is the situation regarding the replacement of this facility for Port Hedland to have another library, and what time factor is involved in having this available for the people, because it's very quite urgent. My question is, do you plan to replace the present or the absent of the library from Cook Point to Port Hedland?
Mr. Carter, we are still working through that. We're looking at some options in terms of alternative location in the West End. We're also looking at the option for a mobile library and how that would work.
Okay, thank you. Second question concerns town planning scheme number IP50. In your recommendations to support, same references were made to the concerns expressed by the council on page 57 of the agenda. It's relative to the inconsistency between 2 points, point 2 and point 3. And it stated there was going to be some clarifications regarding those 2 queries, but it didn't happen. Will council, I assume, will be determined by the determination of section 4.3, which is the IP50 itself, which states quite categorically that any town planning that will come under that scheme will now be determined by the WAPC and not by the town council. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
That improvement plan 50 will be put together after public consultation with the people of Hedland.
I was very pleased to see that you did make that recommendation, Mr. Chairman. That does happen because it's quite essential that the public do get concerned in that one. The third one is, I noticed under 11.3.1, residential housing. Very pleased to see you don't do it. It is noted that you propose to purchase 9 new houses and upgrade a further 4 residences. In referring to the housing reserves, which you quoted in your thing, it is noted that you have only $174,724 in the reserve account. I think that's a little bit light for the replacement of 9 houses. my question, where does the remainder of the expenditure come from? And have you got any estimated costs, and is the amount budgeted?
My understanding is there isn't a plan to replace 9 houses at all. There is a plan to get rid of a number of houses, and primarily the income derived from that will purchase a number of houses, but it won't be 9.
No, there'll be a big shortfall there, I'm sure. Just as long as my second question, has it been budgeted?
It has been budgeted in part, but also the funds that we'll get from the sale of
I've noted
properties
that. I've noted that.
will go into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Yes. We've got a mobile. Do you want to stay seated and maybe we give you the mobile? Be right?
Stand up, I'm Tony.
Okay.
My name is Mary Atwood and I live at 111 Anderson Street, Port Hedland. And I'm an elder and determined native title holder in the Kurriata native title claim, which was determined in November last year. I want to know, number one, who did you consult with in regard to the closure of the cemetery in Port Hedland? I'd like to advise you that all my family are located in that vicinity, and we were not consulted, and it does not reflect a good image for the council that they aren't consulting and informing local people about their proposal.
In relation to the cemetery, the actual cemetery, as you would know, has effectively been closed for the last 50 years. This reconsideration of the cemetery will look at that and decide what the future is. It is still possible for people with significant connections, such as yourself, to be buried there. That is still a real option that people of a basically pioneering position in our community will still have that capacity. So that's the long and the short of it. It isn't something that is new. This has been in place for 50 years.
I'm aware that it was closed in order to transfer a lot of deceased people into the South Hedland, because I've been here nearly all my life, so I'm well aware of the development in this area, and I'm well aware that it has been opened recently, and a long time ago to bury people who had significant involvement in the community. But I want you to be aware that as a traditional owner, we, the descendants of Tommy Anderson, have to be consulted. We just recently buried the ancient remains of Aboriginal people that were collected and brought back to country. So it's very important that our people are consulted and have the opportunity to decide and be involved. But I'll make a further statement. The other question, I asked about you told me about the consultation, eh? I'm just very concerned about what's happened to the council, because I, as part of my native title involvement, had the opportunity to look at the Local Government Act and found that this is a corporation. It's an independent corporation that does not have any link to the state government. And they don't have the capacity to make decisions, despite the fact the government has recently made changes to the Act itself. We, the people of Port Hedland, and I've been a ratepayer for the last 40, 50 years, elected these people to represent our interests, not anybody else's interests, not anybody else, but the interests of the ratepayers who pay money to you guys to provide a service under the Act. I'm a bit concerned, even though they've introduced the ability to remove our elected people sideways. I'm concerned that you come in, the commissioners, and I'm not talking specifically about you, but this is what the government is arranging, that the commissioners come in, make decisions, and do not comply with the planning and the people's needs. So there is a legal issue there. And I just recently saw the proposed plan where you've taken in land. I will tell you, you don't have the power to take land just for the sake of it, because your act is in conflict with the Native Title Act, which is a federal act, and overrules your act. The Local Government Act, if there's a conflict between federal or state, it doesn't apply. And you know that. So there is a real issue about your proposal to re-plan and include the removal and closing of sites and taking up, even looking at the West End. Technically and legally, you haven't got the capacity as a local government to do it. But I'll leave it and come back to you in my statement.
Yes, thanks. I presume that's more of a statement than us.
Yeah, well, I want to add to it, and I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I take that as a statement, and thank you for your contribution. Is there any other statements or questions? Yep.
Good evening, my name is Patricia Mason. I'm Karriata Elder as well, determined in December, the 18th of December. I'd just like to make a statement in regards to not agreeing a push to take over Port Hedland by the government. I also, a commissioner, was assigned to the town of Port Hedland to stand down at elected council members for 6 months, in which the government appointed to make decisions for local government councillors, which we, the community, appointed. Local government is an independent owner corporation run by the people, for the people, under the Constitution. The government have no powers to control this town. This town is not a mining town. It was developed by the people, for the people. The council is paid by ratepayers' monies to work for the people, to uphold the rights and interests for the people in all accounts for past and future developments, which are at a consultation process to voice their needs for change, not the interests of outsiders, influences to benefit. I wasn't a part of the state ILUA push, Indigenous Land Use Agreement, over the 98 claim for Kariyarra. Our family did not sign that under the Act. If you haven't got a true and full consensus, then the Indigenous Land Use Agreement has no status and it's invalid. So whoever actually made a decision about that, it needs to go back to the people, for the people, at a community meeting out there. Because this is our home, Commissioner, Chairman, CEO, everyone here. This is our home, everyone's home who choose to be here. And we want that noted and a meeting to be held out there, whether it's in the Oval or not, so everyone can have voice their concerns. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. I think that was probably a statement as well. The consensus, I suppose, is that you're of the view that the government doesn't have the capacity to introduce a commissioner. I think that's not right. The government of the day creates local government. So local government is actually a creature of the state. And as you would know, with native title, the state is the main negotiator in relation to native title claims and the like. So the state does have a significant role, and especially in local government, because without state government there would be no local government. But I do agree that it is not ideal that elected people are removed. I am a strong supporter of democracy. When I was the Speaker of the West Australian Parliament in 8 years as the Speaker of Parliament, I ejected only one person from the chamber. If you notice how parliaments run around Australia, that is very, very rare. And the only reason I didn't remove people for bad behaviour is that I found that it was impossible for me to justify removing representatives from that chamber. And I am a very strong supporter of getting democracy back into suspended councils. So I just say that in passing. I don't know whether that answers any of your questions, but any other questions?
Can I finish my statement? Oh, sorry. Hang on, you finish yours first. Can I finish my statement? I'm sorry, but I'm getting old too, you know. I'll work off the floor. I agree with you that it's part of the government's, the government's policy to control and manage land and services. But I want to clarify that, because if you look at the Constitution, local government is not part of the Australian Constitution. There was 3 referendums and they were all lost because people felt they didn't want the local government to be in a position of power and to make taxes. So there's a lot of information out there, and in respect to its status in terms of native title, when you look at the section where it's in conflict, your laws don't exist. And you look at that recent case over in Victoria of them, Labor trying to get rid of the Labor CEO. The reason they didn't interfere was that it was the independent corporation, which is very similar to what you guys are. So, and I'll just put you on notice, we're not going to accept the West End. We're not going to accept the proposed land use, land planning, and we will be challenging you because you're destroying our home, and our land and our environment.
Thanks for the statement. Any other statements? Yep.
I have a statement, Mr. Chairman. It refers once again to the closing of the cemetery. I find it abominable, really I do, that a resolution passed not more than 12 months ago, in such a short time, should be superseded and absolutely resented. I find that immoral. That's preventing the right of choice by any person who would wish to be buried in the cemetery, and I say that locally. Also, the acknowledgement of the people's dedication to the present and deceased people who have you heard of tonight. They do have great dedication to them, and I agree with them. And the estimated cost, which they discussed about running it for $1 million, is absolute rubbish. If it is, I'd like to see the cost of it. So I firmly do not agree with the changing or closing of the cemetery for Port Hedland. I think it's a necessity. I think it's a human relation, and I certainly would like to be there myself.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Carter. It is, of course, true that this closure occurred 50 years ago. When, and I'm sure Mr. Carter was the Shire President here for a number of those years, where it operated as a closed cemetery. Nothing's changed. All that's going to be put in place is the way that you operated the cemetery all those years ago, and that's the current position. Yeah, you wanted to make a statement?
Yes. Hazel Lockyer. I'm a local community member, and as a local community member here in Port Hedland, there's 5 generations of my husband's families buried within the old cemetery. The first burial was in number 2 in 1916. Community members are only too willing to come together as a community to maintain and to take responsibility to keep the cemetery available for families who want to grieve and mourn their lost ones there. The area where the cemetery is located, I believe, is inside the boundary of the proposed extension of the West End Special Control Zone, so theoretically would not come under the jurisdiction of the council. I have read the RPS report that was undertaken on behalf of the council, and I have an understanding on what will be necessary to maintain the cemetery. As a community, we will seek fund, and as a community member, and with other community members who were only too willing to support us, we will seek funding if necessary to keep the old cemetery alive and thriving. And we demand council support here, otherwise we will go out and work in full force. Thank you.
We have a statement from the Health Department. Do you wish to give that now?
Sorry. Thanks, Commissioner. Margie Faulkner, Regional Director for WA Country Health Service. Just wanted to come along and make a statement regarding the needle syringe program and proposed needle syringe exchange program for your records and for the public record. The WA Country Health Service, in conjunction with the Well Women's Centre and local pharmacies, distribute injecting paraphernalia as part of the state government's Sexual Health and Bloodborne Virus Needle Syringe program. The current program offers free fit packs, which includes clean needles, syringes and safe disposal caps. The program also offers additional information and education to consumers on topics such as safe disposal, health information and opportunities to refer clients to services and programs to discuss pathways and support to manage or recover from addiction. These are key harm minimisation programs and allow access to support for those in our community who inject drugs. In late 2018, my organisation commenced drafting of a business proposal for the development of a needle syringe exchange program to be established in the town of Port Hedland. The proposed exchange program differs slightly from the current needle syringe program in that it is a program where clients can safely return and exchange used paraphernalia for sterile injecting equipment. and will also continue to offer those opportunities for education and support. These form part of leading public health strategies to prevent the spread of bloodborne viruses among people who inject drugs and the broader community. A needle syringe program coordinator commenced in Wax Pilbara in late 2018 and undertook an extensive 3-month consultation with community, stakeholders and consumers to establish how the current needle syringe program sites were operating and the suitability for an exchange program in the region. I do want to thank all of the community members and stakeholders who participated in that consultation session, which was overwhelmingly positive and provided good evidence for community support for such an exchange program. That consultation also identified that the preferred location in the Pilbara for that exchange program was the town of Port Hedland. Further stakeholder consultation was also undertaken to identify potential sites for that program. It was mid-2019, that our business case for funding and the establishment of that site was successful, which will allow us to actually input the infrastructure to deliver the program. An appropriate location for this program is essential for the success, and the choice of an inappropriate site could deter consumers from utilising the service, which would undermine the public health benefits that it would provide. We are currently undertaking due diligence to identify and secure a location for that program, which will take us a few more months. We would expect that if the current project milestones are met appropriately later this year or early next year, we would be able to actually commence that program. The Wax Pilbara recognises that for the needle syringe exchange program to be successful, it needs the support of the community and recognition that drug addiction is a health disorder. We ask that support from the community be respectful and treat people who inject drugs with the same compassion and right to confidentiality that individuals seeking assistance for tobacco, alcohol and prescription medication are afforded. From a health research perspective, unhelpful attitudes towards injecting drug users from the community only achieve increased vulnerability levels of social exclusion. Those who inject drugs are often experiencing higher rates of homelessness, incarceration, unemployment, social isolation and chronic health problems already. We do need the community support to reduce the impact of stigma and discrimination that is impacting the lives of those most at risk of and living with bloodborne viruses. There's significant evidence that the stigma influences the health-seeking behaviour of many of these health consumers and can significantly delay their ability and willingness to access treatment. Ultimately, without the help of this community, any program that we put in place will not meet the goals of reducing infection or improving the health protection and care of our community.
Thank you. Is there any other statements? Question? Yeah.
Do you have a question first, Dave? Oh, you can go.
Thanks. Good evening, Commissioner Reedley and the directors. My name is Luke Jessup. I'm representing the Port Hedland Cricket Association as a player and a current sponsor within the association. I'd like to discuss the needs of cricket in its current capacity in town, especially with its growth and the growth that we've experienced. So far we have 5 men's teams in town, which is averages 14 players per men's team. 2 women's teams this year, and we're looking to install a 3rd women's team as our numbers grow, considering that 6 out of 10 new people to the sport are actually women or young ladies. 2 junior teams, again 14 players a side, and 120 cricket blast teams or master blaster players, which was formerly the Milo cricket program. We have 4 players from said programs that are currently attending state teams, including one lady from the Indigenous women's team for the state, up to 2 junior players and Zoe Brickcliffe as well. She's attending the state women's program. Okay, so where we want to get to is that we've got so many people waiting in the wings to play cricket in this town, but we have what we'd say is a lack of facility to host those teams. We play in summer, which means that we align with the national programs and state programs, and we have to, for player welfare, conduct these games of an evening under lights. Currently we have the Kevin Scott Oval, which we utilise most evenings, as well as the net facilities in town, which we're very grateful for the town providing and maintaining for us. So considering that we're the strongest growth sport in Australia, and considering that we've got an inclusive program where we're inviting 6 out of 10 new players as women, we're looking to expand our program. So far we're looking at So far we're looking at the utilisation of the one pitch under lights of a night time isn't meeting the current needs of the association. What we'd like the council to consider is the reinstallation of the pitch at Colin Matheson Oval, which has been removed now for in excess of 20 years. So from our understanding, and historically, we've housed WACA games at the Colin Matheson Oval in the past, and they've held crowds of 2,000 to 3,000 people. The reason that we would like the pitch in there is so we can expand our programs. So not only do we have all of that, we also have 2 senior men's teams in the waiting. So that means there's another 28 players prospectively that we can house, but we can't house them now because we can't actually physically give them games. We understand and recognise the master plan that's before council and the panel, and its needs in future use. Our needs are more immediate than that. If we can't physically get players onto a pitch to give them a game, it dissipates. We lose traction, we lose the ability to give people, and especially the people from Port and South Hedland, the ability to get out, get involved, and especially utilise council facility. We believe that there's an opportunity at the Colin Matheson Oval to reinstall a pitch. We have adequate funding for the installation, all separate from any irrigation works and so on that would be required. We would just like the council to consider that for us, and please return statement at some stage in the future.
Now, thanks for that question. Well, I suppose all I can say is that it will be considered.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Good afternoon, Dave McGowan, Sutherland Street, Port Hedland. I'm representing the Port Hedland Yacht Club tonight. With the self-supporting loans that are currently outstanding to the Port Hedland Yacht Club and the South Hedland Bowling Club, what was the cost to the town of Port Hedland in administrating those loans?
We'll take that on notice.
Okay, I guess if I rephrase it, the loan was, you guys were actually acting as guarantor for the loan through the Treasury Department.
Thank you. Through the chair, the loans, there are 2 loans in effect. We had a loan with WA Treasury, and then there's a loan between the town of Port Hedland and the Yacht Club or the Bowls Club. They are what are called back-to-back loans, so therefore the cost to the town technically is 0 there was actually a fee, a state guarantee fee, which we were incurring, which has not been passed on to the Bowls Club and to the Yacht Club. So,
Do you know what that fee was?
it's a quarterly fee. No, I can't give you specifics. We pay it as a lump sum for the total portfolio. As you know, the loan portfolio that the town had with WA Treasury was paid off in full in just before the end of June. So to pay out that loan though, we did also incur a premium, which isn't passed on to the Yacht Club or the Bowls Club.
Okay, well, so that sets my next question up then. So I'll read it out as I've written it. Is it correct to say now that the town has used cash in the bank from the lease to the airport to pay Treasury's 2 loans out, that the town is now profiteering at the expense of the 2 clubs that are struggling financially to provide a community service because of the difference in interest rates?
No, that is not correct. As I said, we effectively, to pay out the loans, there will be a differential, but it's minor, to pay, particularly given the size of your loans. The loans, we did pay a premium to pay out the loans to the people because the actual loans are through WA Treasury, go through another third party, and they wanted a premium to pay them out. So we have actually incurred costs that are not being passed on to the Bowls Club and the Yacht Club. So no, we are not profiteering. We still had to pay out those loans and a premium to do so. Yes, there was a benefit to the town due to the size of the loan portfolio, but I'd say based on the size of the Bowls Club loan and the Yacht Club loan that we have incurred a cost, but it's immaterial. So no, we are not profiteering. We've just prepaid our part of the loans to WA Treasury.
So, in a nutshell, our interest rate is about 6.4% with Treasury.
That's correct.
And the money that you had invested was actually earning about 2.2 to 2.3%.
If we still had that money in the bank now, we'd be the current, most recent term deposits we've secured are around 1.5%, and that's because the market's factoring in another rates. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm going.
So that's why there was a fixed rate. The fixed rates that were negotiated by the town at the time were well higher than the interest we were earning on the revenue. On the loan. The proceeds from the airport lease.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm getting to is we're trying to reduce our costs as much as we can, and just the difference in interest rate, it works out to $73,000 over the 8 years left of our loan. We'd like some consideration to rework that.
Have you made application for that?
Sorry?
Have you made application?
No, not yet. I just wanted to get some of the facts sorted out.
Yeah, well, make the application and then it'll be sorted out. Yep.
Thank you. Cheers.
Any other questions? Yep. Yep.
Camilo Blanco, Harwell Way, Wedgefield. It's been quite a few years since I stood at the podium, but watching the meeting from the back is interesting. And I always wanted somebody to, get up while the negativity was flowing strong, to comment on some of the significant agenda items that are going to create a real change to the town, a livable community. And the McGregor Street Precinct Master Plan is tonight going to detailed design. That is a significant achievement from the council, as well as the South Hedland Integrated Sports Complex Master Plan. Taking these master plans to detailed design hasn't happened in many, many years, and that's why we have ageing infrastructure that hasn't been invested in for generations, because we haven't got to this stage. The council hasn't been able to get these master plans to detailed design. Once that is done, and once we've done the work on that, then we can actually spend money on upgrading these facilities that should have been done, generations ago. So it's a great achievement to get to this stage. The IP50 that's been mentioned tonight. The way the world is going, we have to make decisions and ensure that we diversify our economy, allow that to happen. And this IP50 is going to allow the headland economy to be diversified so we can attract other industries, considering that, the job losses that are going to be created through automation, robotics, are significant. And that's only in a lot of the newspapers, in the last couple of weeks, that's been talked about. That's been talked about. 30% of our job stock is going to be lost. It's through the automation and robotics in the mining industry. So unless we make those decisions and ensure that we allow diversification to happen in Port Hedland, we're going to lose our population and we're going to lose, our people. The closure of the Port Hedland Cemetery, again, this was spoken about a lot. If people want to be buried in the cemetery, they can be buried there. It is just a matter of closing the cemetery, finalising the paperwork. If somebody wants to be buried there, put the application in. But to run 2 cemeteries in the town of Port Hedland is ludicrous, considering we only have about 20 burials a year. And the South Hedland Cemetery is very well maintained and is where the majority of the people are placed these days. The interesting one, Badari Industrial Estate, or the Badari entrance road contribution. I do have some issues with, applying $250,000. It is a state and federal responsibility. The Minister for Transport did tell me that that this contribution can be funded 100% from the Commonwealth. So, but I'm happy that we are finally getting some action in the Badari Industrial Estate, road network, considering that this conversation has been on the table for the last 25 years. So again, there's some great agenda items on here tonight, and let's get it passed and let's get cracking. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any other statement, question?
Talona Pitt, 3 Jurapuka Court in South Hedland. I've just come to make a statement tonight about the closure of the Port Hedland Cemetery. In regards to the commentary that's been made, and also some of the things that have been found in the agenda item, particularly saying that, comments from yourself, Commissioner, that the Port Hedland Cemetery has already been officially closed. This is just a matter of administration or something like that. Under the Cemeteries Act, in Section 4, if the cemetery has already been officially closed by council, it doesn't need to be closed again. It just needs to be, the information of the closure needs to be sent to the Governor so he can gazette that it was closed on the date that it was closed, presumably, I think you said around 50 years ago. So there is no need to vote on the closure of the Port Hedland Cemetery in regards to the information that's been presented here tonight, saying that has already been closed. It's just a matter of ensuring that the closure that was made all those years ago gets sent to the Governor so he can gazette that. Also, I would like to say that the night of that vote, I was actually a week away from giving birth to my son. The people, my constituents, approached me and were concerned in regards to the way the vote would go that night. If I wasn't present, the Mayor would be allowed to use the casting vote. So instead of being at home where people who are a week away of giving birth to their son should be. I came to council that night to ensure that I could represent my constituents who approached me to ensure that their voice was being heard at the council table. I feel not only presenting this information in regards to that the only process now is for the information to be sent to the Governor to gazette it. It doesn't need to be closed if it's already closed. I feel that this item shouldn't even be on the agenda. I feel it is an absolute disrespect to the town, to the ratepayers, to the constituents. There was no opposition from any person who pays rates in this town to not pay the money that the administration say it will cost to keep the cemetery open. And as we know, local governments and everybody who was a part of the local government receive money through rates, and it's the ratepayers who we're representing. That night there was a lot of concern in regards to the development of the West End. The West End is still a big concern, and it's a very big uncertainty for the people of this town. And I don't feel that decisions that may impact on that in the future should be made without a council that is elected by local people and is decisions being made by local people. That way we can ensure that democracy is prevalent here and that the true voice that the people of Port Hedland would like to see in their council is being represented in the votes through elected members that they choose to represent them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other statements or questions?
Can I do a response to one of the speaks before her?
No.
No.
Any other statements? No. Question time is now finished, and time for statements is finished. 6.3, petitions and deputations, presentations and submissions. There isn't any. Next, questions from members without notice. There is none. Announcements by the presiding member without discussion. I'll just take this opportunity to comment publicly on an event which happened over the weekend. This was the actual Northwest Festival. It was truly a fantastic event, the festival, and I think it's now recognised as the premium festival north of Perth, and I think that including places like Geraldton and the like are much, much bigger. It was a fantastic event, well organised, fantastic location, probably world-class location, and we maximised, well, the organising team maximised the benefits for that particular event. This is the 8th Northwest Festival event, and almost 3,000 people attended. And this particular number of people breaks the previous records in relation to ticket sales. So fantastic. The community supported it, and it was a fantastic event, as I say. Artists such as Amy Shark, Baker Boy, the Pearce Brothers, who I think sound more like Mumford and Son than anyone else. They were just a sensational group of entertainers, and of those people that helped put this on, our partners in the event is BHP, and then we had silver sponsors of Roy Hill, Sundowner sponsors, Fortescue, a Metal Group, and then we had the Pilbara. This became the Pilbara's primary music event. It boosts tourism to the town, and in fact enhances the reputation. I think it enhances greatly the reputation to be able to hold events within, and it gives great credit to our management team. One of the stars of the show, Amy Shark, has contacted our office and said that it was one of the most professional run events that she has ever performed at, and she's performed all over the world, which is sensational. I'd just like to thank Laura Hawes, who's our marketing manager of events and communications. Our events team is Ashley Grotch, Brad Holder and Josh Clifford. Our communications team, our Parks and Gardens team for the efforts they put in, and of course local contractors, that helped put on the event. On a less happy note, I suppose, we are losing one of our team, which is Brad Holder. Is Brad here? No, unfortunately. Hopefully he'll get to know what we say about him. He started in September 2005 and started working in the kiosk while he was still at high school. Once he completed his high school, he was employed as a technician at Matt Dan Centre in March 2008. In 2010, he was employed as a Matt Dan Productions coordinator, and then he became the Matt Dan supervisor. Brad has brought many world-class productions to the town and is responsible for the partnership, the Headland Community Theatre Group. We'll miss him greatly. However, we know his future is assured and he's moving on, so we congratulate him, hope that all goes well in his future endeavours. Okay, we move on to declaration. I declare that I've read the agenda thoroughly, and confirmation, I confirm that the minutes of the previous meeting I approve the recommendation. Due to the number of people who have commented on the cemetery, I will bring 14.3 forward in the agenda to deal with the Port Hedland Cemetery issue. This cemetery has been known as the Pioneers Cemetery for the past 50 years. And I do say that there is a presumption that once the cemetery in South Hedland opened, that administratively this particular cemetery would have and should have been closed 50 years ago. The fact that an administrative error didn't happen, that is a pity. During this time, 2 people have been buried in the cemetery. They were in fact long-term resident and her partner. The closing of this cemetery still allows those people who have significant contributions to the area to be buried in this cemetery. The process is the same that allowed the last 2 burials in the last 50 years to occur. An application would be made to the CEO, and the CEO would ask the Minister for approval for the burial, and that approval must take place within 2 days. So it's not something that will hold up a funeral. But only those with special connections to the area will qualify. And I think that probably confirms everything that people have said tonight. Those people with significant contact and family history in relation to the people that are at the cemetery will still have that capacity to be buried there. I do understand the close personal relations that people do have with the past relatives. I did look at the file in relation to the last couple of meetings that occurred, and noted that 3 councillors exempted themselves from the vote in October, and in May, and then in October that wasn't in fact the case. In my view, the first decision was correct, and the Port Hedland Cemetery should in fact officially be closed and become a pioneering cemetery with the capacity for long-serving residents to apply to be buried there. I I have to do something strange now because of the rules. I raise my hand and vote for the revocation of the earlier decision. And so I vote for that revocation. And I support recommendation 2 on page 129 of the agenda. Thank you. I'll now go back to the start of the ordinary agenda. Item 1.11. This is in relation to statement of financial activity for the period ending the 30th of June 2019. These accounts are not audited and are subject to change. The key point in the statements are the current surplus. Just for those that weren't here at the last meeting, it is my intention through all these items to declare the item and then give my reasons for the way I'm voting, so that people can at least have some understanding of my thought process in these items. As I say, the key point in the statements are currently surplus stands at 12.6 million. This will be reduced by the transfers to the financial risk reserves of the high risk rates revenue yet to be finalised. 2. Materials and contracts expenditure was over budget by 3.2 million due to the tropical cyclone Veronica. There has not been any recovery income from the Disaster Recovery Fund. And 3. The town's loan portfolio was paid in full in mid-June, and that is reflected in these accounts. Review 11.1.2, which is the review of meeting schedule. This review is primarily caused by the suspension of the council. The dates were set with an election in October in mind. As a result of no election, these dates would normally be in place and are now substituted. The meetings will now take place on the 23rd of October 2019 and the 27th of November 2019, and I support the recommendation on page 17. Um, 11.1.3. This is policy 3-003, subsidies and allowances. The main objective of this policy change is to make our policy relevant to the current staff. Staff now receive what is known as the Port Hedland allowance, which replaces numerous parts of the awards that applied to staff employed prior to the 2nd of September 1995, of which there are now no such employees. There is no one that predates the 95 date. I pass the recommendation on page 21 of the report. This item 11.2.1 is the master plan for McGregor Street. This plan is a result of significant consultation and designed to enhance the community infrastructure in Port Hedland. This plan will complement the area already used by hockey, tennis, cricket and the turf club. The following is a list of proposed improvements. The first of which, of course, is the new 2-storey combined turf club judging box and broadcasting tower. This building will incorporate new function room, kitchen and bar, storage, change rooms, toilets, multi-purpose rooms and possibly library. Indoor recreational activity rooms for dancing and martial arts, meeting rooms for all year round use by a broad range of the community. Other significant uses will be the cyclone shelter, which will cater for up to 200 people. There'll also be new stables, new shared use pavilions for hockey and tennis, new recreational sports field, small playground relocation to sports ground, new car parking, new barbecue, sheltered seating, 2 rugby fields, an Australian rules ground and a shared kiosk. Provisions for commercial expansion into the southwest corner of the block is also included. Provision for seniors accommodation is included. Provision for a building for possible daycare also. It is hoped that funding for from the Commonwealth through the Building Better Regions funding may assist in the funding, together with state, local government and our partners in the companies from this town. We'll see this project come to fruition. I just want to state that with this program, the next one and last month's master plan, it is imperative that the community get behind these and make sure that they actually happen. We move into the next phase of this, but I impress upon people that there is a distinct need for these facilities, and we need to push hard to make sure they occur. One next. Have I missed one? I have. Yeah. The next one is another master plan, which is 11.2.2, which is the South Headland Integrated Sports Complex. This document was put together after massive public consultation and a number of projects within this master plan. I will quickly outline a summary of these. 1, the development of a new main entrance, reception and lobby. 2, 3 new indoor multi-use courts. 3 new court storeroom. 4 new change rooms and toilets. I won't keep numbering them. New large multi-purpose outdoor covered area. Modifications to allow for greater gym and fitness area and the squash area. New floodlit multi-purpose field located to the west of Kevin Scott Oval. This will allow rugby, soccer, hockey and touch rugby and possibly cricket. I'm not quite sure about cricket. New multi-purpose pavilion between New Oval and Kevin Scott Oval to be used, can be used simultaneously if both ovals are being utilised. The expansion of the Diamond Sports fields to the west. 2 new small multi-use pavilions located adjacent to existing and new fields. Landscape dog exercise park, a new adventure playground for kids, improved car parking, new path system for jogging, skating, including separation marking, which if you walk and you have push bikes and such forth, you actually need. Shaded mounds, barbecues, playgrounds and cricket nets. I do urge people to come and have a look at the 3 master plans that we've announced in the last month and a bit. That date is the 19th, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's on the 19th of September.
We'll be advertising.
Yeah, we'll be advertising that. I urge people to come along and have their say, have a look at the facilities we're proposing and give your views as to which of the projects, the many projects, should be pushed first and the like. So that's coming up. So I support the recommendation on page 47 of the, 41 of the report. And once again, I just urge people to not just think that these things are going to just happen without some political pressure, I suppose, at the end of the day. Whilst I'm here, there'll be political pressure, but we've just got to make sure it continues. This is 11.2.3. This is a report on the arts and cultural strategy through to from now until the year 2022. It sets out the pathway that allows this vital part of our community to develop, create, employ and show what roles the Shire and other groups can play in the development of this industry. The strategy sets out how to celebrate arts, culture, heritage and culture. The data behind the strategy was collated from online surveys, pop-up stalls, workshops, social media polls, and some 860 people contributed to the actual strategy. The aim is to create the arts and cultural scene that celebrates the rich and significant history of our region and embraces the future of our region. The report shows that the Courthouse Gallery and the Spinifex Hill Studio were well known and people would take visitors to these galleries. It shows a lack of involvement with Aboriginal heritage of the area. People are keen to be involved, not just attend events. There should be an annual review of events to replace low impact events with excuse me, I'll just have a sip. With new events in partnership with the community. And it emphasises there should be at least 2 new events in the upcoming year. Our events team, which I spoke about earlier, the magnificent events team, will have to expand to keep pace with this report. And of course we've lost one of our team, so we need even be quicker to re-employ. Increase in levels of funding attract to these programs, an increase in uptake of grants programs, more community use of existing facilities, maintain satisfaction with the current events and grow community-led events. In short, this report is very exciting and I support the recommendation on page 53 of this report. 11.2.4, response to the West Australian Planning Commission Improvement Plan 50. This is a reconsideration of the plan that was put to Council some time ago, with Council, in my view, making a confused decision. The confusion springs from Council not supporting the plan, but voting for the Planning Commission to allocate extra funds to complete the plan. The new position is that Council supports the Improvement Plan 50 and urges the Planning Department to allocate sufficient funds to allow extensive community and stakeholder engagement above the normal. I look forward to a constructive and positive outcome for the town of Port Hedland. The Council would of course be putting in the submission in relation to this report. I support the recommendation on page 57. The next one is 11.2.5. This is a study into a public open space. This study found that we do have a lack of developed open space, but what we do have are well used and appreciated. The system of analysing public open space does not include all the open space around our town. The plan identifies and establishes a hierarchy of parks to guide decision making in relation to creating and maintaining of parks, and makes sure that our parks are maintained at the highest possible levels. The strategy establishes opportunity for more economic and environmental sustainable parks. It considers the importance of foreshore reserves, and natural vegetation buffers, which makes up, I think, in a massive way for the lack of parks. I do support the recommendation on page 73 of the report. Report 11.2.6. This is in relation to exemptions for a development application for daycare centres, small daycare centres. This exemption for development approval, this exemption is an attempt to remove a red tape restriction on development of home-based small daycare facilities for up to 7 children. The removal of the need to apply for a development application that are not likely to cause community concerns, which I think would be 99% of them. Daycares would simply have to comply with the rules that apply to daycares for childcare and health regulations. This is part of a much broader look at daycare being conducted by the Headland Collective, which includes BHP, the Pilbara Development Commission, and of course Council, and we hope other large companies may join that collective. I support the recommendation on page 79 of the report. And the next one is 11.2.7, proposed closure of a portion of Dalton Road in Wedgefield. This is a proposal to technically close a portion of land that was to be part of Dalton Road, which originally designed was straight. It was a straight road. As a result of the Great Northern Highway realignment, Dalton Road needed to change. In 2017, the then council, the road was realigned, as it should have been. As a result of the new alignment, there are some residual parts of the old alignment that's still designated as road. This closure removes these surplus areas. So I support the recommendation on page 87 of the report. Item 11.3.1. This is a proposal that former councillor Freeman of the City raised earlier. This item puts in place a proposal, a process of disposing of some properties that council owns, and the purchase of properties funded largely out of the proceeds of the sale of the properties. This management of the properties is a sensible way of ensuring our housing stock is improved and is sustainable and attractive to our staff and families. I support the recommendation on page 91. There's agenda item 11.3.2, review of policy in relation to the purchase of new vehicles. This policy was reviewed in January 2006. Policy 9/009. I have looked at the suggested policy in relation to the purchase and the length of time to be kept of each of the class of vehicles. I recognise the need to adopt a policy that reflects best practice in this industry. I can assure you this new policy does reflect the industry standard, and I support the recommendation on page 97 of the report. Item 11.3.3. This is in relation to a tender, two tenders really, for playground centres. This tender is in two parts, the Shaygap Park in South Headland and the Cemetery Beach Park in Port Hedland. Both these projects are of vital importance to the Headland community and especially the children of the Headland region. Both projects are part of the renewal of playground program, except the cemetery one has had to be brought forward. The equipment at the Shay Gap playground is due to be replaced now, and the cemetery beach playground was damaged in Tropical Cyclone Veronica and needs to be replaced, but it's still part of the overall larger program. I do support the two contracts as set out in recommendation on page 101 of the report. Do I have anything else with that? Okay. The first one is the Shay Gap Memorial Park to Yarra Proprietary Limited, option 1, valued at $406,554.08, which is pretty accurate. The contract team based on the length of the project, and B, the Cemetery Beach Program Active Discovery option 1, valued at $824,945.86. I don't know how we get the 86, but there you go. With the contract term based on the length of the project. So I'll have to 11.3.4. This is another tender. This is for Throstle Road in South Headland. This tender is in relation to Throstle Road, South Headland, verge upgrade. This is the main street of South Headland and has been allowed to run down by the looks of it. The scope of work includes grading, traffic management, concrete edges, gravel, Kimberley stone sealed builders. What's that? Seating, is it? Sorry, I'll read that again. My writing sometimes is illegible. Kimberley stone seating boulders, install ring steel edging around trees, planting of trees, roll on turf, and a new water irrigation system. Firstly, I support the budget being increased to $500,000 and award the contract to Yarra Proprietary Limited, which is for the amount of $538.40, and support recommendation 2 on support recommendation 1 and 2, both on page 107. This is 11.3.5. This is in relation to landscape supplies. This tender is for the supply of gardening materials to be used in parks and gardens. Supplies such as mulch, pine chips, topsoil, river sand, blue metal. The tender, the Pazzi and Son. That is for $75,000. I approve the recommendation on page 113 of the report. Next one's out. Sorry? This one? No, it's a few others. We've still got a fair way to go yet. 14.2, is that right? Oh, hang on, yep. I snuck a page in, sorry. Okay, 12.1, Audit and Risk and Governance Committee minutes on the 13th of August. I approve the recommendation that those minutes be approved. Item 13, there is nil. Item 14, new business and urgent nature. There is 4 such items, and I think we go through them one at a time now. Right. And I approve the recommendation that we consider the I move the recommendation that we accept the late items, and as I'm the only person to vote, I also support it. We've had the cemetery. Okay, the first financial statement. Great. This one. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry, 14.2. I flicked over too many pages, unfortunately. This is in relation to Gatwick Aquatic Centre and remedial work to be done. This is a result, and I can understand it, of an attempt by council to do a job on the cheap, really, or to fix the Port Hedland, pool. A bit of a patch-up job, really, and the attempt has failed. As the more the work advanced, the greater the scope of work became. This bill is now at $320,000 to allow our pool to operate, hopefully, for the next 10 years. When I gather either a decision to either replace or not replace will have to be made in about 10 years' time. Hopefully we'll get another 10 years out of the pool that's now being rebuilt. I do point out that the facts given to me anyhow are that operating swimming pools, of course, in the north is a very expensive exercise, and sometimes people ask, where does the rates go? This particular pool costs approximately $32 per adult in subsidy to run. So, that's one of the problems with rates, of course, is no one likes to see where all the money is being spent. And I'm not saying that this pool shouldn't operate. I'd never say that, but it's it does cost a lot of money to run swimming pools in the north of the state. And I approve recommendation. Which one? Recommendation 2. 1 and 2 on page 123. Okay. This is another late item, and it's a result of an audit in 2017-18 that was not picked up due to an administration error. The two issues that were involved in the audit query were the debt servicing ratio and the operational ratio. The debt service ratio is no longer a problem, as council has no debt. The operating ratio was a paper figure when the values were downvalued. This was a reversal of the 2014-15 year. All issues have now been addressed, and I support the recommendation on page 135. This is... Oh, okay. This next item is the one that was addressed by the suspended mayor, I suppose, which is Bundari entrance. This late item is a result of the main roads having an established crew in place to do a major job, and can, for a fraction of the cost, complete the work at Bundari Entrance Road project as part of the Bundari Strategic Industrial Area. It is interesting that the total commitment here is $250,000. It is our hope that other agencies will pay the majority of that fee, but the deal that was put in place by the main roads I'm told that the savings in relation to paying $250,000 would vary between $2 and $4 million if this project had to be restructured. So it's a win, I suppose, for certainty plus economically wise where we might be faced with much higher costs in later years. And it's good to see that project get a kickstart. So I support the recommendations on page 139. I now move into an area of confidential nature, and thank everyone for coming. And we'll now deal with the confidential item. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get it out first.